This is Modern Medicine.
Welcome to the Modern Medicine Podcast with the Medical Society of the County of Albany. I'm John Doherty, and we're a little technically challenged today because I forgot a very important connection for the microphone, so we're going to be working off a dictating machine. Modern Medicine Podcast is brought to you by the Medical Society of the County of Albany in Albany, New York, and we want to thank the member physicians for making the podcast possible. Our guest today is one of those members, Dr. Anthony Ferraioli. He is a practicing psychiatrist in the Capital District and a prolific writer, and we're going to be talking about his book today. Doctor, how are you?
Hey, John, I'm good, thank you. I like passing the microphone back and forth, actually. I think it adds a little charm to the experience, that and our little old man glasses we both wear. All right, well, John, thank you so much for inviting me. This is a pleasure and an honor, as always, whenever I get to talk to you. Let me know what questions you have, and we'll go.
Okay. Well, first of all, what's the title of your book?
Okay. The book is called Don't Get Married Unless You Understand a Few Things First, and it's a provocative title, and I did that on purpose because I want people to really think about their relationships, whether they're married already or they're thinking about doing it.
Very good. All right, so what is the key to a happy marriage?
What a great question, John. I think a key to a happy marriage is to behave ourselves. Now, that's a popular thing, I bet. We have to behave ourselves in our marriages because we can't just willy-nilly do whatever we want. We kind of get used to each other over the years, and we loosen up a bit, and some of that can be rather destructive to the relationship. So we have to watch our tone, and we have to watch that we don't use our spouses as emotional punching bags, because that's not what they're for. And we have to watch things like blaming each other for things. And lastly, we should really look into looking at each other as really just somebody else's messed up kid. I mean, one spouse and the other, we're both we have our issues. Nobody's an emotional reference point of perfect health. So we have to change some of those things. I think those are some keys to a happy marriage, John.
I want to ask you about leftovers, but before I do, I left out a key thank you. We want to thank the musical group Rare Earth for allowing us to use their music in the Modern Medicine Podcast. Anyway, all right, so in the book you talk about leftovers. What do you mean by leftovers versus prime time in a marriage?
Okay. John, leftovers versus prime time, it's terms I came up with in order to describe kind of what I see people do in their marriages. They seem to save their best energies for whether it's work or, hobbies or with their friends. And then we get home and we kind of give our spouses the leftover energies or the leftover attention or the leftover true focus or leftover creativity in terms of doing things with them or coming up with neat day trips or plans, spontaneity, all leftovers. Spontaneity, leftover ability to do things really with them, our leftover positive energy, meaning saying something positive every day if we can to our spouse, whether it's, wow, I really like this meal, I really like the sauce you made, or I really, wow, that's a really pretty outfit you have on. Something positive so that we can start to show and communicate through our intention that we are giving them prime time, our primary energies and focus, not just the leftovers. So I would say that's one of the key ideas to that.
This is the Modern Medicine Podcast. I'm John Doherty with the Medical Society of the County of Albany. We're talking to Dr. Anthony Ferraioli, practicing psychiatrist in the Capital District, and about his new book, Don't Get Married Unless You Understand a Few Things First. What do you mean by learn, explore stance in a marriage?
Okay. Great question, John. We often come to our spouses with what I call the defensive stance or the comment stance. And what that means is when our spouses say something to us, we're getting ready with an answer right away or with some kind of defense against what they're saying or defending ourselves to them. Well, what I propose is a different stance, and that would be a learn/explore stance, meaning, when my spouse comes to me, I really want to make it my main focus and priority to learn about what she's trying to say. In other words, I want to learn about what she's saying, and I want to learn, therefore, about her. I want to learn what she's experiencing, what she's bringing to me, and I want to explore that. I don't want to simply comment. I want to be able to, and if I may use my technique LVAC, which is my, it's a trademarked technique. It's spelled LVAC. L stands for listen. V stands for validate what they're saying to you. which can be just a nod maybe, or a sound like mm-hmm or something like that. And then A is for ask them questions, meaning explore. And then C would mean comment last. So it's LVAC. Listen, validate next, ask some questions. And if they're open-ended questions, that's even better, because that way you can really leave it open for them to say whatever they're really bringing to you. And again, commenting last, if at all, because usually what do? We comment first, and that is the comment or defensive stance. We're really not doing any good for the communication and the buildup of trust that way, John.
Very good. In the book, there is a chapter on marriage versus the single life. What are some of the examples of the differences? I really want to know this one.
Well, hey, you mean besides missing it? Well, I'll tell you. Married versus single life. One of the things that I focus on in the book on this topic are things like accountability and checking in with someone. When you're single, you really generally don't have to formally check in with anyone if you're an adult. I mean, you have to pay your taxes, and eventually we die, and those two things are inevitable. As a physician, I certainly know about the latter. But I think that when we're married, it has to change. We're accountable for two things in particular to our spouses: time and money. Two big examples. It's no longer the case where you can sort of just call your spouse and say, honey, I'm going out with the guys after work and I'll see you later. Click. You do that enough and you're going to lose, well, you know what, you're going to lose a lot of things with them, including the trust and et cetera. Money is another one. It's the idea of, honey, look at this, I'm buying this new car. It's this revved up, souped up thing, or this really cool European thing, or whatever it is thing. And you didn't really check in with her and or him or her, as to what they think about that in terms of the family's finances. So it's really about checking in. The difference is really about checking in and accountability for things that before we were married, we really could have decided on our own. Whereas now that we're married, we really have to we have somebody we have to be accountable to for these things. Time and money are two big ones, yes, but there are others, and you'll see quite a few of them in the book.
As a person who got married rather late in life, would it be okay for me to say that even for you dedicated bachelors or bachelorettes, when you get married, actually, you don't feel so bad about being accountable to your spouses?
That's true. That's really true, and there's an advantage in many ways, actually, of getting married a little bit later on, and I think that's one of them. We grow a little more comfortable about how we've managed ourselves, and we've learned through the School of Hard Knocks in some ways what works and doesn't work. And I think that people who tend to get married a little bit older or a little bit later than, let's say, what I consider young to be married, and again, I don't want to offend anyone out there, but people, they often get married, and they used to, especially in the past, we get married in their early 20s. And to me, that's very young. So they're just together trying to learn about things like time and money, essentially flying right out of childhood, where these things were never really mastered that well to begin with. So it can be very frustrating for each spouse to kind of have the other one do whatever they kind of came out of childhood doing with their time and their money. John.
Finally, what other tips for a successful marriage would you recommend?
Very good. Well, there are a few, but I guess the number one thing that I want to get across to people in my book and through this podcast is to change your marriage, or to have a healthy marriage, we have to change ourselves and become healthy ourselves. The minute we say I do to somebody, something is going to happen once you apply the factor of time. If 5 years pass by, you will have either grown 5 years closer or 5 years more apart. If 10 years pass by, you'll either have grown 10 years closer or 10 years further apart. Right? So that's the thing. So we go on and on. Once you say I do, one of those two things will happen. It's not an option. One's going to happen. We're either going to get closer or we're going to get further apart emotionally. So what are some components of getting closer rather than further apart? Some simple tips. Simple to say, at least. Maybe not so simple to do. Number one, practice restraint. We don't have to say everything that comes up in our reactions to our spouses. Just wait a bit. Hold on to that. And kind of calm down and wait. Number two, react less would kind of go with restraint. And therefore, listen more. React less, listen more. Okay? And another thing would be follow through. If you say you're going to do something, or if the two of you agree that that's the plan for you as a family, that's what you should do, and there should be follow through, unless you agree to talk about it and change the plan. But what often happens is there's an agreed upon plan or behavior, and then one spouse takes it upon themselves to either not follow through or to change it, and that causes a lot of problems. So follow through would be another. Again, prioritize each other. Show your intention of priority towards each other, not leftovers. And then last but not least, that's this concept of emotional credibility, where I define that as trust plus likability. If you grow trust, you grow to like each other. And I don't know about the whole love soulmate thing that's out always in the culture, but I do know about trust, and I know about liking and wanting to be with your spouse. Okay?
Okay. Don't Get Married Unless You Understand a Few Things First by Anthony Ferraioli, MD. You have a book signing coming up.
Yes. Thank you, John. I do. January 22nd, 2011 at the Borders Bookstore in Clifton Park, New York. I'll be there from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And I look forward to meeting you and to signing your book and chatting a little bit. Also, in the meantime, if you want to learn a little bit more about the book, etc., and about what we've talked about today, you can go to lvacnation.com, which is lvacnation.com, where you'll also be connected with my blog, which gets through the miracle of modern technology, gets cyberspaced right through to Facebook, where you can actually order my blog to get sent to you by email. And these things are the things I write about on the blog as well, whether it's marriage, whether it's your own growth, or whether it's being a parent, parenting, marriage, and individual growth. So enjoy, and I look forward to meeting you at Borders.
Fantastic. Dr. Anthony Ferraioli, this has been the Modern Medicine Podcast. I'm John Doherty with the Medical Society of the County of Albany. We hope to have more. We do have podcasts coming up probably in January with Health Information Exchange New York, Ixnay. Be sure to tune into the Medical Society website, albmed.org, or you can listen to us on YouTube. This is John Doherty saying goodbye.